Hello guys, welcome back. So in today's video we're going to be having a look at one of the greatest barbershop fragrances of all time, a 10 out of 10 classic in my opinion, now discontinued, and we're going to look at Dua Fragrance's recreation of it. Dua of course make recreations of other people's fragrances in the main, and therefore I'm going to do my third and final intro in the series where I highlight some really affordable alternatives to your favourite fragrances.
Marilyn Monroe famously wore nothing but Chanel No. 5 in bed. Now, thanks to my most recent Christmas present to my mum, she can do the same with the surprisingly affordable No. 5 by Chanel. I used to really like Dolce & Gabbana The One, but nowadays I think I prefer Dolce & Glamour No. 1. This one was really cheap. Actually, I don't think it's a copy of anything. Somehow it does look vaguely familiar. And anybody's got any ideas, let me know. It reminds me of something. Now, I've always really liked Hugo Boss fragrances, and I've always been a big fan of Tommy Hilfiger cologne. Now I've found the perfect combination with Luca Bossi Booze. Now, I recently bought this bottle of Tom Ford for a great price on eBay. It's Noir de Noir. Can you guys help me? Does it seem legit? Something seems just a little bit off, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
Okay guys, yes, so welcome back. Today we're going to have a look at an absolute classic fragrance. It's Rive Gauche Pour Homme from Yves Saint Laurent, regarded by many people as the ultimate barbershop style scent, a shaving foam-esque smell par excellence. Sadly now discontinued, but thankfully no sooner has it been discontinued, even its reissued form, Dua Fragrances have now given us Rive Fougere, which I think is a sensational alternative. Before we get into that subject, just briefly, I've also got this one here. This is Intense Homme from Dua, a recent release from them. This is their recreation of the vintage formula of Dior Homme Intense. I only have the 2015 version. It was first released in 2008 before it went under a big reformulation in 2011. I put these two side to side, and this one is much stronger, a little bit brighter, and maybe with a bit of more of a pear note combined with that beautiful iris. So really intrigued with this one and impressed with it so far. Great performance on the Dua alternative Intense Homme. If you're interested to see a full review of that, let me know in the comments down below. By the way guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down there, then you won't miss future videos that I make. So let's get into the subject for today. Of course, all these fragrances have been sent to me free very kindly by Dua Fragrances. I've been doing reviews of their stuff for absolutely ages, since quite close to when I started the channel. They mainly do inspired expressions of other people's fragrances. There's a lot of hybrid ones now where they mix maybe Aventus and Virgin Island water, that kind of stuff. I've got all the fragrances pretty much that they've ever sent me, so I really relish them. I don't just do a review and then flog them on eBay. They are really good if you're looking for great performing fragrances. So today we're going to have a look at Yves Saint Laurent's Rive Gauche and the new version of it, Rive Fougere. Yves Saint Laurent's Rive Gauche, first released in 2003 under the creative direction at Yves Saint Laurent of Tom Ford, before he had his own fragrance company, of course. And it's really a remarkable fragrance because it's kind of a throwback fragrance. It's got a real barbershop style. We'll have a note listing about this fragrance coming up really soon. It was released in this tin can, which is rather charming, almost a bit like a hairspray kind of thing, or even a shaving foam can, you could say. It's really a brother to its sister, the original Rive Gauche fragrance, which you can see on the screen here, a female fragrance released back in the 60s, but nothing like it in the smell. And what was incredible about it was that it was kind of a smartened up throwback fragrance, kind of a dad smell if you like, which was kind of brave at the time when in 2003 most people were going off into aquatic sports fragrances, or certainly not in this direction. For me, I think it's a little bit of a tribute in a way to the original Brut for Men, the classic from originally Fabergé back in the 60s. It's got a little bit of that kind of vibe about it. It's definitely an aromatic fougere fragrance, as was the original Brut. So it's sort of a high-class, improved version of Brut. And the other one people often mention, of course, is Azzaro Pour Homme from 1978. They do share this little twist of a licorice-esque anise note, tons of lavender, but that can be a little bit rough and ready around the edges. This really smartened that one up and brought it up to date for the year 2003. So it was a brave release. We're going to now have a little bit of a look at the Dua fragrance, some details about that one, and then we'll talk about how they compare. So Dua's Rive Fougere is priced at $55 for a 30ml bottle. At the time of shooting this, they've got a code on which is Dua15, giving you 15% off the fragrance, and that's a highly concentrated extract de parfum level, around 30% perfume oil, so much stronger than the original Eau de Toilette. The note listing for the Dua fragrance essentially will be the same as the original Rive Gauche. So we have lavender, rosemary, star anise, bergamot, clove, tonka bean, geranium, patchouli, gaiac wood, vetiver and oak moss. Okay guys, so let's see how these two stack up against each other. I've been wearing them a fair bit and I've tested them on cards and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a huge fan of the original. I used to have the reissue in the square bottle. They brought it back in 2011 after at some point it disappeared before that in a bottle like this. And then there was a different bottle that was a clear bottle. As far as I could tell, they were really pretty good reformulations, and some people say that something was missing, but I found them very good, so I didn't really think we lost an awful lot. But of course, I prefer to have the original OG version. I've got a couple of tins of it here, so I'm pretty lucky. You can see I am a real fan of this fragrance. There's how the box looks. It's really good stuff. I've even got the intense version, which came out at some point as a flanker, which is kind of rare and hard to find. So really happy to have that. So you can see this is a fragrance dear to my heart.
Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month and you get an extra video from me every week. Plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there.
We've heard the note listing there, so it's a typical aromatic fougere fragrance. A lot of the notes you expect in those are there. There's bergamot, there's lavender, there's oak moss, there's tonka bean in this one. The Rive Fougere version then is just really exceedingly close. I cannot really tell the scent profile apart on these two, except for a few minutes maybe in the very opening, when this one actually seems a little bit maybe darker and this one maybe just a tad bit brighter. The Rive Fougere from Dua, of course, is concentrated at extrait de parfum, which is around about your 30% mark. I think there's sometimes even more, whereas the Yves Saint Laurent fragrance is just an eau de toilette. So if you're looking for a lovely creamy shaving foam-esque lavender, a little bit soapy, a little bit green, with this little twist of sweetness and spice in there. There's a star anise note which plays a very important note, tends to smell a little bit like licorice. It just gives you this perfect, well-groomed, smart kind of fragrance. It's for you guys in your 30s mainly, or people who want to think a little bit more mature. You can wear it at any age. Perfect kind of office fragrance, or dressed up in a suit or at least a sports jacket, that kind of thing. Superb choice for that kind of situation. You can't get the tin can version online as in any normal retailers anymore. You might, if you're lucky, find it on eBay. The recently discontinued bottles now are still out there from the Yves Saint Laurent, but again, they're going to become scarce and probably highly priced. So Rive Fougere differs in one significant aspect in that it is a lot stronger. I've done a test where I had one on one hand, one on another hand here, and I've done the same thing on paper strips here, and it's just indisputable. I've tried to put the same amount of juice on each one. It's hard to do that. This Rive Gauche, the original, even the vintage version here, is pretty much just about there now, about a day after I sprayed it, whereas the Dua one is really strongly there and strongly present. So you're actually getting amped up performance, I think, on what Rive Gauche ever had when you buy Rive Fougere, which I think is the great thing. A lot of people, of course, don't love what Dua do because it's so-called dupes or clones, but in this case, the original fragrance is no longer with us. So I think a lot of people who are not fond of the concept of clones can kind of forgive these, because you can't actually get the original fragrance anymore. So I know people who don't care for Dua in general, who have actually admitted, yeah, I've got their version of Green Valley or their version of this or that you can't buy anymore. And I have to say, I'm really glad to have it in the collection. So Rive Gauche and Rive Fougere, both 10 out of 10 fragrances for me. The original great, although the performance on the original just okay. It's not outstanding, it's not amazing, it's a decent performer. But if people say, oh, the old vintage Rive Gauche was really strong and then the reform wasn't, there's not that much difference from having owned both of them. But the Rive Fougere takes it up to a new level, and that's why I was excited to share it with you. Now, of course, there are other alternatives to Rive Gauche. Famously, there's one called American Blend by Fine Accoutrements, I think, and there's an aftershave and an eau de toilette. I have tried both versions. First of all, the scent profile is close but not exactly the same, whereas this one is bang on the original Rive Gauche, and also the performance on that is similar to, or in the case of the aftershave, even a little bit less than the eau de toilette of Rive Gauche. So they're good alternatives which are really cheap, but if you want the real deal, or as close as you're going to get to it, Rive Fougere does trump them. Negatives on the Duas, of course they're not cheap for fragrances which are essentially clones of other things. So yeah, if you're looking for a cheap alternative to fragrance, whether it be a niche one or a discontinued one, then they're not cheap, but for $55, often there's a discount, as I mentioned earlier. I think it's pretty good. You know, only you get 30 mils, but if you've got a big collection like me, that might last you a long time. You could buy 2 bottles if you really want to be fancy. Superb stuff. Let me know what you think of the original Rive Gauche or Dewar's River Fougere if you've tried it. Please comment down there in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Smelly.